This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by NIL Game Changers, Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. You have many insurance needs. And you need to have them taken care of. That's what makes a pro at Purdy Insurance invaluable. They'll make sure you're fully insured, multitude of needs. It could be bundles, could be, there are certain cases you're allowed to go over state lines to get insurance. They'll do whatever they can to save you money while also making sure you're fully insured. They really care about customer service because they're great people. I know these people. These people are great people. They happen to be great pros. And don't forget about the Purdy Memorial Golf Tournament. Wednesday, August 7th, Susquehanna Valley Country Club to benefit the Greater Susquehanna Valley YMCA. Todd says he does not break clubs. But he does take...
just hearts.
But he does break country clubs to their knees. No, not the case. Not the case, really. So the U.S. Open Golf Championship is this week. We'll get Jerry Dulac in a few minutes here. At Pinehurst, number 2. Jack Camp played it one time. He'll do this. You've heard me say this. He'll do this to me once in a while. I'll get a phone call. Steve. Jack. Yeah? Guess where I am? I'll be sitting there like, Valhalla. No. Whistling Straits. No. Then I'll get another call. Steve. Guess where I am? I said, Whistling Straits. No. Pinehurst number 2. Like, so he's played the course. So he knows. It's quite different than when, you see Payne Stewart in that dramatic putt on 18, the 72nd hole, beating Phil Mickelson. And, and Mickelson and his wife Amy are about to have their first baby. And you see Payne go over and put his hands on Mickelson's face and tells him he's about the greatest championship of his life is going to be being a dad. That course, Pinehurst number 2, is different than the Pinehurst number 2 of today. That's because Bill Coore, Ben Crenshaw came in, and they restored a lot of what was originally done to the course. And what makes this course really difficult, besides the usual U.S. Open rough and so forth, what makes it particularly difficult is that you'll have a pretty good sized green. And guess what? If you hit it to a certain spot, I hit the green. Great. And it rolls off. If the landing area where it holds, on average, is about 33 to 40% of the green, where you can hit it to and it holds. That's what makes it so difficult as a course. And there'll be time. I mean, this is going to be the, fourth time in 25 years that Pinehurst has hosted it? And this is also, by the way, in conjunction, this is also the 1,000th USGA championship. Yeah, whether it's the U.S. Open, the Senior Open, the Women's Open, the Amateur, this is the 1,000th USGA championship. And they haven't had it there in 10 years. They're expecting about 250,000 people to go to the event. Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen's beautiful area down there. But what strikes you about the course is, the rough will be testing, no question about that. But it's also just the fact that the actual landing spot on the greens, where it holds, is not very big. Like, the green may be decent size, but you have to hit it into that 33 to 40% area where the ball's going to hold up top. And they did a lot to restore the course, using a lot of the old Donald Ross design. And I played some Donald Ross courses. Whenever I play Bass River, Cape Cod, that's a Donald Ross. And I love that course. And they're going to play again in 29, 35, 41, and 47 there. I hear you.
I was going to say I have not been able to reach Jerry.
It's okay. That happens.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I was a little concerned. I saw the Steelers were practicing, so maybe that's where he's at.
It could be. That's fine. If that happens, so be it. I understand that.
These people letting their jobs interfere with our lives, man.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, come on, what's going on? You know how angry I get.
You're a rageaholic, right?
Yeah, I'm a rageaholic, just like Jerry West in not show. Is it? It's not called Showtime. What the heck?
Winning Time.
Winning Time. Yeah. So Bill Core, Ben Crenshaw redesigned the bunkers again. They also exposed some sandy expanses in the rough. And that's what they did with it. Now, what is different is what I talked about the greens. All right. The greens are no longer a Donald Ross thought. They replaced them 50 years ago in a regrassing effort. And they didn't do anything with the contours of it. Now, the bunkers, Dick Wilson replaced them in 1947. And a few years back, Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw redesigned the bunkers again, more to like the way Ross had it, and exposing the sandy expanses in the rough the way Donald Ross had it. But yeah, that's, there's certain places that, that are raw, like Seminole down in, you may have seen, Seminole was the one they used, remember during the pandemic? Finally got a chance to play, they showed golf on TV. and the first one they showed was from Seminole down in Florida. So, yeah.
Turns out the one thing we probably all should have been doing during the pandemic is working on our golf games.
I did. No, I remember it was a running joke around here. I said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go play golf. It's like, the heck? Then for a period of time, you weren't allowed to play golf. Then they said, well, you can do it. And then they put all these ridiculous things in about they had covers that were like an inch down on the
oh, I forgot about that. We weren't allowed to putt into the hole.
I mean, the putt goes in the hole, but you had to lift the flag up to get it out.
Yes.
Like, okay, sure. Ball washer? No. No ball washer allowed. They figured it was outdoors, that 6 feet thing that somebody made up. All right. So. All right. Now, here's a great Pinehurst stat for you. Payne Stewart won in 1999. Michael Campbell won in 2005. Martin Keimer won in 2014. Those three have totaled 15 PGA wins between them. Okay? The runners-up, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, and then the duo of Ricky Fowler and Eric Compton. They totaled 133 tour wins between them. Now, Woods has 82 of them. Mickelson has, 40-something wins, like 45 wins. But it's like, okay.
That's kind of like the all-time, what brothers lead are the all-time home run hitters in Major League history.
Hank and Tommy Aaron.
Hank and Tommy Aaron.
Tommy Aaron hit 6 or something like that. Or, way to go, Tommy. That's great. I actually have a Tommy Aaron baseball card. I do. I have a Tommy Aaron baseball card. In 2005, 3 of the top 6 on the leaderboard shot in the 80s on Sunday. Retief Goosen held the third-round lead by 3 shots, lost to Campbell by 8. Jason Gore was tied for second and 3 back going into the final round, lost by 14.
They were not wearing the Tiger Woods red shirt that day, were they? They
no.
were not closing that one out.
No. USGA Chief Championship Officer John Bodenhammer talked about how Donald Ross said Pinehurst had the perfect rough, why it creates randomness, which most pros hate. That sounds like our staff meetings. Randomness. We love it because it creates a little bit of anxiety or fear if you miss the fairway. It's the U.S. Open. This year will look quite different than, say, Winged Foot, or what some people think is the typical U.S. Open rough, but it should contribute to the difficulty of the golf course because of lies that prohibit players from understanding how the ball will react when struck. Combine that with the bold greens, chaos can ensue. That's perfect. See, now what I want to do is next year is do what I've done before, is I want to see if on the practice round on Tuesday do a show from Oakmont, because next year Oakmont gets it. And I've done this at Oakmont and at Marion, both. And I also did it in Lancaster for the U.S. Women's Open in 2015. Do the show there. Circumstances kept me from doing the show at Lancaster this time. All right, but that's one thing. They funnel great guests over to you. We've had great people on. Like, okay, Inbee Park, great. Lexi Thompson, great. Rory McIlroy, great. So, you're like going, this is a great. Ricky Fowler, great. How I get him. And then I remember at Marion, they were trying to get us, and they couldn't quite work it out. They were trying to get us Lee Trevino. I mean, Pete really tried. And I said, hey, we'll take him in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? I think I'd ask one question. I think the whole half hour would be gone.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Oh, goodness.
Lee, tell us some stories.
Lee Trevino had one of the greatest lines ever. Right? They asked him about whether he was in the U.S. Open, the PGA, or the British Open, the Open Championship. Because he won 6 majors in his career. And they asked him about pressure. And he goes, pressure? Now remember, Trevino grew up with no money, okay? He played on municipal courses. He grew up with, right? They asked him, he says, pressure? Pressure's paying a $50 Nassau with $10 in your pocket. That's pressure. Yep. I thought I'm well better win it because I don't have any money in my pocket to pay off if I lose. Those are all the great lines about pressure. Oh, what a great pressure player. He's like, guys. No. Yeah. So. Oh, man. Hey, Trevino has a great story, too. He grew up in Garland, Texas, right? And his grandfather was a gravedigger. He never knew his father. He left the family when he was a little kid. So Trevino would go to school, he'd work to earn money. I mean, at the age of 5, he was out in the cotton fields, for goodness sakes. His uncle gave him a couple of golf balls and an old golf club. Not clubs, a club. And he spent his free time sneaking into nearby country clubs, very much like the suit does now. And he began as a caddy at the Dallas Athletic Club, which was, near the house. Then he began caddying full time. And he left school at the age of 14 to go to work. And he earned $30 a week as a caddy and shining shoes. And then he was able to practice golf since the caddies, had 3 short holes that were behind the caddy shack. So after work, he did about 300 balls. Right? No grass. Right? They always called that Texas hardpan. Windy conditions, the whole deal. And that's why, that compact, rather unorthodox swing that he had and the fade that he had was developed because of that. Then the guy goes into the Marine Corps. He comes out after corporal, and he played some golf while in the armed forces. And then he said, hey, let's give it a shot. He made extra money by gambling for stakes and head-to-head matches. That's where the old $10 in your pocket and a $50 Nassau came from. And then he qualified for the U.S. Open and made the cut. And he earned $600. All right. 2 years later, he won at Oak Hill, the U.S. Open. Won by 4 shots over Jack Nicklaus.
What'd that Nicklaus guy ever do?
But I'm saying, you want to talk about coming from nothing and being something? And I remember they had a golf channel one time. Now, you want to talk about a panel. I think it was David Faraday. He had Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Lee Trevino. So it's 18, Palmer won 7, 25, Player won 9, 34, Trevino won 6. So 40 major championships. And Trevino stopped playing the Masters. Stopped playing for a long period of time. And he says, I can't play Augusta National. And Nicklaus Lee, this is the interview. Nicklaus looked over and he says, yes, you could. He says, you could play Augusta National. He says, don't say that. He says, you could play. You could play anywhere. All right? He said that Trevino felt very uncomfortable at Augusta National and that he disliked the course because his style of play, because of the fade, was not suited. See, and Nicklaus said that's not true. So he didn't accept invitations to the Masters in 70, 71, and 74. In 72, after foregoing the previous two Masters, he stored his shoes and other items in the trunk of his car rather than use the locker room facilities in the clubhouse. Trevino said, look, if he had not qualified as a player, that club would never let him onto the grounds except through the kitchen. And then later on, when he talked about it, he says, you know what? He says, boycotting the Masters is the greatest mistake I ever made in my career. And he called Augusta National the eighth wonder of the world. So, but Nicklaus was like, don't hand me that. You could play Augusta National. He says, you could play anywhere. Come on. It's. But he won 6 majors, and he also won the Players once. But, yeah. Would have loved to have had Trevino on the whole show. I mean, this is like, he's a self-made guy. Loves self-made guys. Jeez. Ah. Yeah. Is the suit a self-made guy?
I would guess.
He screams trust fund. All right, we'll come back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult,
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
we get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
You want a unique way to display your brand. You need a team of seasoned experts to work with. You want to reach customers who buy. You want NIL Game Changers, a versatile consulting agency powered by former student athletes and coaches who work as NIL sports agents. NIL Game Changers will help you build powerful relationships with customers through compelling stories, with student athlete influencers as your leading edge. Finally, we'll equip you with the right media to drive your success home. NILGameChangers.org, building meaningful relationships with your customers.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, NIL Game Changers, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department that backs it up every step of the way, routine to difficult, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Any chance I get a chance to talk with the great Jody MacDonald, I take it. Jody Mac, how are you, sir?
Steve Jones, how you be?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. It's always great to hear you.
My pleasure.
I've got to ask you about Jerry West, because you always bring the perspective of being from a family that understands what it's like to be an executive and run a ball club. Jerry West was a great player, but then also had 8 titles as an executive. What's the personality that's needed, and what did you know about Jerry West at all that lent to that personality?
You're right. He was a phenomenal player, and yours truly actually old enough to say that I saw Jerry West play at the tail end of his career when I was just a young guy. So I always thought of him as a player more than an executive. Shoot, the NBA made him the logo for the entire league, but that should not diminish what he did as an executive. He several different franchises, the Lakers, the Warriors, even Memphis, the time he spent there, he brought them up from obscurity in the NBA. So this was a guy who was an NBA lifer, certainly one of the all-time great players, but also should be looked at as one of the all-time great executives. It's love of the game. If you get in, you're a player, you're an all-time great player. Some guys walk away from it afterwards, get on with the rest of their life. No, basketball was ingrained in Jerry West, and he could not only play the game but could evaluate talent and was a tremendous all-time great executive as well. So truly a Hall of Famer that was lost yesterday.
And by the way, one of the great, initial two-way players in the game, Jerry West was a great defensive player as well as a tremendous shooter.
Correct. And again, going way back to my childhood, I remember when he made a half-court shot against the Knicks in the NBA Finals, which would have ended the game in today's game because it only counted for 2 points, even though he made it from behind half-court to send the game into overtime. Just stone cold phenomenal player. One of my all-time favorites when I was just a kid.
Yep, exactly. I remember the shot, just like you remember the shot that he took. It would have been good for 3. In fact, when I was at the Minnesota Timberwolves practice gym, because Penn State was playing in the Big Ten tournament, they used the gym to get ready for the first game. They had, just in pencil, but a 4-point line. West shot would have been a 4-pointer.
Yeah.
Hey, the Phillies are red hot. Won again, 4-1 last night with Zach Wheeler on the mound. Schwarber hit a couple of home runs. I know JT is out for maybe 6 to 8 weeks. They played without Trey Turner. What is it about that team that no matter what roadblock is thrown in front of them, injury or whatever, they keep winning?
Well, first thing, I hope you're woefully wrong because Dave Dombrowski said yesterday about a month. And I guess you could call 6 weeks about a month. 8 weeks would be 2 months as far as I'm concerned. Right. So I'm going to take Dombrowski at his word that it'll be somewhere near a month, one side or the other. And I've been saying for 2 or 3 weeks on my WIP show in Philly, the most irreplaceable guy on the Phillies, as great as everyone has been for them to accomplish best record in all of baseball, was JT Realmuto. And sure enough, he's the guy who gets hurt and is going to miss a month. Even saying that, I don't think they should do a damn thing. I think they should sit tight where they are. We'll find out if Stubbs is a guy who the more you see of him, the less he gives you. I think he's a fine backup catcher. They like Marchand, the young kid that they've had in the system. He's had some injury issues, but he's healthy now. As your backup catcher, I think that if Dave Dombrowski goes out to try and make a trade for a catcher just to get through this month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, if you're right, Steve, unfortunately so, I think you'd be mistaken. I don't think he needs to do anything. This Phillies team is clicking on all cylinders. They've got a great chemistry. I think that's a big part of why they're as good as they are. They've got a great chemistry in the locker room, and Stubbs is a big part of that. So although you lose a all-star level catcher, you would think that's a big loss. For the Phillies, I think it's something I think they can work through.
First of all, I'll buy your month. That's good. I'm fine with the I'll go with the month. And if you're talking about a month, Jody, to me, I agree with you. It's not worth, doing something dramatic. Dombrowski, to his credit, to me, has shown in his career he's not a panic guy, and I think that's important when you're running a team.
And the biggest thing about this particular injury is it's a catcher.
Yeah.
If your first baseman goes down, your third baseman, your center fielder, whatever, boom, you plug the guy in. He plays defense. He does what he does at the bat. Catchers have to work with your pitching staff. And if you bring someone in from outside, the way that this pitching staff has pitched this year, the last thing you want to do is bring someone in who's not worked with any of these pitchers. That's part of what makes JT Realmuto great, is because he has such a great mind-to-mind relationship with his pitchers. and Stubbs is there every single day in the same rooms, taking the same meetings, breaking down with the pitching coach how they're going to go over their entire lineup. He's the guy. I got to give him a chance before I think about bringing in anybody else. And if it is only a month, if the Phillies play 500 ball over the month that JT is out, which I believe they'll play better, but go for 500. So what? The Braves will be, 6 games out? 7 games? They're 10 games out now.
Right.
I really think the Braves are going to make this great run. They're going to have to play 700 ball, and they've been nowhere near that this year for them to be able to make up ground against the Phillies.
And they don't have Strider, and they don't have Ronald Acuna. I mean, it's not as if they haven't run into roadblocks. They have. To me, the stat that has said it all to me about the Phillies is that Aaron Nola has a 2.77 ERA, and he's the worst of the starters on ERA.
Of the 4, he's not down below Taijuan Walker just yet,
right.
But the other 3 guys in the rotation are all ahead of him. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We're about a month away from the All-Star game. They've got legitimately 3 starters, and I'm a big Christopher Sanchez fan. He's going to pitch for him tonight. I'm surprised how good he is. I thought he'd be good. I didn't know he'd be this good. Mm-hmm. But I think Nola's an all-star. I think Suarez is an all-star. And we know Wheeler's an all-star. Are they going to have nerve enough to take 3 deserving Philadelphia Phillies starting pitchers for the all-star team?
Right, exactly. That's what you have to wonder about. What I find interesting is that when they've gone out to acquire somebody over the years, JT, Marsh, obviously Harper, and a list of other people, they seem to bring in a personality that fits the city. Am I being fair about that?
No, I think that's absolutely on point. Harper, no one knew, but as soon as he got here, he let it be known that this was his new home. This is where he wanted to be. That's why he signed his longest contract as he did, that he made himself a Philly guy. Marsh fits in the clubhouse. I think Marsh fits the personality of the Phillies. Yeah, I do believe they take that into consideration. When they're going out and inquiring guys, they know what their clubhouse is. They know the type of guys that are in there, and it's worked well enough for them to be in the NL Championship Series 2 years running. Yeah, they're only going to bring in someone. Not only can they play defense, can they do what's needed on the field, but how they're going to fit in the clubhouse. Dombrowski et al. Have done a great job with that.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned Schwarber, too, because Schwarber is obviously a leader everywhere he's gone. I've got to ask you, but the Eagles going to play the opener against the Packers in Brazil.
Are they going to play? Yeah, sure. Why would you think they're not going to play?
Right. I mean, they're going to play in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Here's my issue with it. Okay, the fans of Philadelphia are among those who built this league and made it into this league. My problem is, why take a home game away from the people in Philadelphia and make it a game in Brazil? I've got a problem with that because I know that you got the Germany games, you have the England games. I'm sorry, but the fans here are the ones that made you what you are. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah. Everybody takes their turn. They play abroad. Jeff Lurie had to they had to convince him to accept being the team and being an ambassador, just like the Phillies did this past week. And the Phillies and Mets each lost one home game. They made each team the home team for one of the 2 games. That's part of being part of the collective, that you need to do what's best for the entire league and your other 31 partners. And Jeff Lurie said, hey, maybe it'll help us sell some merchandise. Maybe there's an ancillary benefit from here if we become South America's team, go down there and clean the Green Bay Packers clock. Yes, they lose a home game, but they're compensated. They're going to get their part of the gate for what they sell down there in Brazil. So I don't think it's a financial loss. If anything, it's a financial gain. But yes, Eagle fans lose a home game. But knowing Eagle fans, there'll be a whole bunch of Eagle fans in Sao Paulo on the Friday of the opening weekend of the season.
Because I know, for example, a complaint around here is that the NFL is going to play, it's not the Christmas Day games. In order to play Christmas on Wednesday, the 4 teams that are playing on that Christmas Wednesday have to play on the Saturday before. So it's treated like a Thursday night situation. Well, that Saturday happens to be opposite the college football playoff, which the last I checked was the talent feeder for this league. How did you view that part of it, and the fact that they sold off the Christmas Day games to Netflix?
Yeah, I've come to accept that streaming is now part of everyday sports life.
Sure.
If you're going to be a diehard sports fan, you better have streaming services. They're paying a gazillion dollars to be able to get these games. And the NFL is, the bottom line is their business, and that's what the 32 owners look at. They know there's a fine balance between keeping it fan-friendly but also making as much money as possible. When the scales tip, they're always going to tip to making more money. So that's why as many games will be streamed this year. And it's only going to get, the number's only going to get bigger as the years go on if the streaming services are still willing to pay outrageous sums for a small number of games.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, streaming is a part of the future. It's a combination of everything. Roger Goodell doesn't do a lot of interviews, but if you were to get him on your show, what would be a question you would ask him?
Probably about, with the fact that they're making as much money as they are, and streaming is just adding revenues on top of revenues on top of revenues, and the players get their percentage, so the player salaries are going up and the cap is going up. When are they going to do something to improve the refereeing? And if it means paying these guys to be full-time employees rather than just weekend warriors to come in and call the games, that's something that, with as great as the replay is these days, and you can see it in super slow-mo, and you can find out when a referee makes a mistake in a matter of seconds, I don't think they're dedicating enough to making the referees' jobs, making them better and making their job easier. If they did, I think we'd have improved NFL football.
Yeah. Is the game, because of the quality of athlete, is the game too fast for these guys?
Yeah, I hope not, because then we're going to rely on technology to call everything, and referees will just be there on the field to spot the football. It's a fine balance to try and strike on a game-in, game-out basis. It's not easy. I never want to see where every single play is under review, and then we'll have football games that are 4 hours long. But it's a difficult sport to referee because they play as fast as they do, and the athletes are just getting faster and better.
Yeah. See, he and I agree on so much. I mean, I feel the same way that, look, if humans coach it, humans play it, humans should officiate it. And so I'm with you. Just do a better job of training the humans so they can be a part of the mix, because I don't want technology officiating games. That's me. Whether it's baseball, anything. Humans should officiate it.
They should have the final say. If they can be aided by technology, we'll take the helping hand. I just don't want the helping hand taken over.
Yeah, aided. Perfect word. Hey, you're the best. Thanks so much for jumping on. It's always great talking with you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime you want to shoot the breeze, Steve, all you got to do is ask.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Jody. The great Jody Mac in Philadelphia. I love talking to Jody Mac all the time. Just brings common sense to the table. Staff meeting the other day, there was no common sense. You weren't there, were you?
Nope.
Neither was I. That was my common sense approach to it. I'm not going to show up. All right, this half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf. We'll close it out in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Spring has sprung, and it's time to dust off those insurance policies. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855 or visit our website at purdyinsurance.com to see what we can do for you.
Okay, Jerry Dulac will join us tomorrow, final half hour. Our profession lost one of its greatest voices. Bob Harris, who was the voice of Duke football and basketball for 41 years. Now, Bob has not broadcast a Duke game for many years. Developed Alzheimer's, unfortunately. Died today at the age of 81 in Durham. Harris called 471 consecutive Duke football games from 76 to 2017. He was behind the mic for 1,392 Duke basketball games, including 16 Duke ACC championship game wins, 13 Final Fours, 10 national championship game appearances. He retired as the longest tenured play-by-play announcer in ACC history. Woody Durham, and of course, everybody knows, I think, that listens to the show, that the great friendship I have with Wes Durham, Woody's son. And I met Woody several times. There they are, 8 miles apart, Duke, North Carolina, Duke, North Carolina, Duke, North Carolina. Great rivalry. Oh, intense, the whole thing. Woody Durham and Bob Harris were really good friends. Really good friends. And Mike Krzyzewski said, he says, much more than an announcer to all of us. He said he's one of the greatest treasures. Said he was much more than an announcer to all of us. He was a family member who absolutely loved Duke and everything it stands for. He announced in 2016 he was retiring the following year. You're talking about 41 years of doing that.
My thought was that's a lot of great basketball and not a lot of good football.
No, 471 consecutive Duke football games. Because that's why when Duke played Penn State at the Mohegan Sun in 2016, Bob didn't do the game because he was doing football that day. And what happened was I did the game with Duke that started at, I think the game was at 1 o'clock, so I was on the air at 12:30. And Dick did the post-game show, so I left it right at 3 o'clock, and I drove to New Jersey and did the Rutgers football game that night. And then when the Rutgers football game was over, I drove back in a snowstorm to do the Cincinnati game the next day. But so I didn't get a chance to meet Bob because he was doing football that day. But he announced 1,392 Duke basketball games, and you're right. He had a chance. I mean, he's really like Don Fisher at Indiana. Don has seen great basketball in his broadcasting career, including broadcasting 3 national championships. But Don will be the first to tell you how up and down it's been on the football side. Same thing with Bob Harris. A lot of up and down on the football side, but what an awesome run on the basketball side. 81 years old. Unfortunately, he was in hospice, and had developed Alzheimer's, and that's a shame because he was a great announcer.